The most amazing human survival trait is our ability to tolerate kids. Most mammals find a way to walk within a few weeks of birth. They quickly discover where to pee and poop with prudent judgment, and in no time at all they can get through the day without constant surveillance blocking their seemingly endless desire to kill themselves. Human beings have no such adaptations. Our species survives based on the simple fact that we feel obligated to protect our helpless offspring, thus perpetuating the undesirable traits that make our children annoying. I knew this information, but did it stop me from signing up to teach second graders? Of course not. I'm a product of this illogical human construct and therefore prone to lifelong bouts of illogical decision-making. So I was counting down the days until summer vacation promised the sweet release of nothingness. Being 22 and single, I was preparing to live every girl's dream of moving back into my childhood bedroom and spending the summer indoors. Because there was no way that I would continue working at the Crestwell Academy for Superb Children. I had 31 hours and 53 minutes of employment left when the cat first appeared. We had been going over 2-digit addition when I heard a low grumble from behind me. There was a black cat in Rhonda's lap. It looked uncomfortable. A chill ran down my spine because there was no reason for Rhonda to have a live cat. We were in the middle of a second grade math lesson, and it was implied that animals had to stay outside the classroom. "Rhonda," I explained calmly, "you'll have to put that cat outdoors." She stared at me without smiling. "But Miss Q, it will escape," she responded matter-of-factly. I forced a very stern voice. "If you let something go and it doesn't return, Rhonda, then it was never really yours to begin with." "But she already smelled me, and she knows I want to cut her open." She continued to refrain from smiling. I had long ago learned to resist the nausea. I simply walked over to the cat, forcibly removed it from her grasp. I didn't touch Rhonda because God help you if you physically contact a student, and slipped the cat out the open window. I didn't know where the thing lived, but there was no way I would allow it to wander where the kids could reach it. Those monsters would probably barbecue it or turn it into a shirt. That's when the lights went out. The children remained calm and collected. I knew this was because their eyes glowed white in the dark. Have you seen 13 children staring at you with glowing eyes in a pitch-black room? It is so much creepier than it sounds. They blinked in individual spurts. Each pair of shining eyes would momentarily disappear at random intervals. I was too terrified to move. I'm sure they knew I was at my weakest. If I had the power to walk away in that moment, I would have sprinted off and never returned. Then the knocking started. It was immediately obvious that the pounding was malicious. The banging was aggressive, high on the door, and it wanted my attention. I walked carefully between the rows of glowing eyes that stared me down. I was too afraid to blink as I passed through. The children turned their heads to follow me as I passed. I could feel them glaring behind my back. I approached the door. It was shaking violently in its wooden frame. "Stop," I commanded in my strongest teacher voice. The knocking ceased. This caught me off guard. Good. Now go away." Even I thought my voice sounded lame. "I've come for the children," it responded simply. The voice was high and low at the same time, passionate yet utterly inhuman. It made my neck feel cold. The knob turned. I grabbed it and immediately rediscovered how weak I was as the metal slid powerfully beneath my fingers. The door opened a crack. I threw all of my 110 pounds against it. It continued to move, albeit more slowly. I looked down in the darkness and evaluated my options for weapons. I left my keys in my purse, No part of my flip-flops, skirt, or blouse could be fashioned into a weapon. My fists were smaller than lemons. Nope. I was definitely going to lose. The door opened wide enough for a man to fit inside. There was just enough light streaming through the windows to illuminate a hand as it wrapped around the edge. It had 7 fingers. They were long, thin, and pale blue. A brush of fur slid past my ankle as a shadow flew across the floor. The voice screamed. Then things happened very quickly. Resistance from the opposite side of the door immediately ceased. Just before my body's weight slammed it shut, the tiny shadow ran back inside the room. The lights turned back on as I fell against the door and slid to the ground. The little shadow turned itself to face me and meowed. I stood up, brushed my skirt, and walked to the front of the room. "Now," I explained calmly, pretending that nothing bizarre had happened, "what is 87 plus 78? I sat across from Principal Epikaya the next day, heart racing. I was finally free. I didn't care about being unemployed. All I wanted was to be done with Crespwell. "I imagine that you want to be done with Crespwell," he explained bluntly from across his desk. "You've had quite a year." I stared at him, slack-jawed. "Yes, I've actually come here to resign." "You found a cat in your classroom yesterday," Epikaya continued as he narrowed his beady little eyes at me. "You protected the animal." I was taken aback. Well, yes, of course. Should I have let something innocent get hurt? He regarded me thoughtfully. Most people would. The awkward silence hung between us. "Then he came," Epikaya continued in a lowered voice. "2 children would have satiated his hunger." My head spun. "You knew he would be there? You expected him to take 2 children?" He shook his head. "Ava, you must know by now that Crespwell is a special place. You've made it an entire academic year, which is more than I can say for most teachers." He leaned forward on his elbows. "And no one has actually stood up to him and won." He sighed deeply. "How did you do it, Ava?" I was about to explain that a cat had saved the class, but decided that he had covered the sounding crazy quota for the meeting. I cleared my throat. "Feminine charm, I guess." He gawked at me blankly. "Well, that must be an extremely dangerous weapon." I nodded quietly. "I'd actually like to talk about my plans going forward. While I appreciate the opportunity, it's time for me to—" "We need you back next year," he interrupted flatly. You know the discomfort that comes with realizing that both creepy guys at opposite ends of a bar are about to approach? Multiply that discomfort by the number crazy. "Principal Epikaya, I actually came here to hand my resignation. $250,000 to return in the fall," he said flatly. "And that's how I signed up for another year of this shit. So I'm going to take a relaxing summer, but come August, I'll be right back in the thick of things. Yes, there may be fetus soccer, brain sharing, and nighttime children, but times are tough. And it sure beats retail."